Hello everyone, welcome to Brain Blitz Audios. Today in this episode of NEET Preparation, we'll be looking at previous year questions of biology in medical entrance examinations in India. Today we're dealing with the 13th chapter in the Grade 12 syllabus for biology in CBSE, and the name of this chapter is Organisms and Populations. So let's begin this episode with our first question. Astronames 2003. Which one of the following is a matching pair of certain organisms and the kind of association? Is it option A, shark and suckerfish to Amensalism, option B, algae and fungi and lichens, being mutualism, option C, orchids growing on trees, parasitism, or is it D, Cuscuta or dodder growing on other flowering plants, Epiphytism? Let's look at the following cases. So in option D, Cuscuta or dodder is growing on other flowering plants. This is an example for the interaction known as parasitism. So therefore, option D is incorrect. Now what about option C? Orchids growing on trees. When orchids grow on trees, the orchid gets more sunlight while the tree is not harmed. So therefore, this interaction is actually an example for commensalism. So therefore, option C is incorrect. And similarly, if you look at option A, shark and suckerfish, which is also known as remora, they have an interaction which is benefiting for the suckerfish and which does not affect the shark. So that is commensalism. So therefore, the right answer to this question is option B, algae and fungi and lichens, mutualism. The algae provide food to the fungi, which provide nutrients to the algae. So they live together as lichens. Next question. The Great Barrier Reef along the east coast of Australia can be categorized as: is it option A, population, option B, community, option C, ecosystem, or is it option D, biome? Now remember that the Great Barrier Reef is the largest reef in the world. So therefore, the size of it would be considered when we're categorizing it. If you look at option A, population, well, a population is what we consider for one particular species, which, let's take in this case, fish. So if you had a number of, say, hammerhead sharks in the Great Barrier Reef of Australia, that can be considered as a population. The reef itself is not a population. What about option B, community? Well, a community is a small group of organisms in different species which live together and depend upon each other. So an example for these would be the small reefs found near, say, an island. So these cannot be used to describe the Great Barrier Reef, so option B is incorrect. What about option D, biome? A biome is an entire area which have similar conditions and similar organisms. So biomes can be spread throughout the world. In this case, the Great Barrier Reef belongs to the biome that we call shallow seawater. So even though the Great Barrier Reef is the largest reef in the world, there are other reefs, and so therefore the entire biome of coral reefs is placed above the Great Barrier Reef. So therefore option D, biome, is incorrect. The right answer is option C, an ecosystem. The Great Barrier Reef is a single reef along the east coast of Australia, and it supports life on its own with all the organisms and various communities interacting with each other. So therefore option C, ecosystem, is the correct categorization. Now let's look at this question. Which one of the following correctly represents an organism and its ecological niche? Is it option A, Vallisneria and pond? Is it option B, desert locust and desert? Is it option C, plant lice and leaf? Or is it option D, vultures and dense forest? So if you look at option D says vultures and dense forest. Now this kind of seems counterintuitive because vultures are known to live on open areas. They need to see carcasses, and therefore they will live in areas where carcasses can be easily found, say grasslands. So therefore option D, vultures and dense forest, is incorrect. What about option A, Vallisneria and pond? Pond is an example for freshwater habitat, and this is partially true, but Vallisneria lives in both freshwater and to some extent in aquatic habitat. So therefore option A is incorrect because the entire niche is not represented here. Now what about option B? This looks straightforward, is it? Desert locust living in the desert. Well, actually this option is incorrect because the organism which we know as desert locusts is commonly called the grasshopper. And where do grasshoppers live? Areas with a lot of grass, for example, grasslands, or habitats such as human habitations, for instance, and human farms, etc. So option B, desert locust and desert, is incorrect. The right answer is option C, plant lice or aphids and leaf. So aphids, they feed on the leaf. They are borers. They take out this, they bore into the leaf and suck out the juice and makes the leaf damaged. So therefore these are pests on the leaf, and so therefore option C, plant lice and leaf, is the correct option. Let's look at the next question. Keystone species deserve protection because these species are, and you have the 4 options here. So which of these is the correct option? If you look at option A says are capable of surviving in harsh environmental conditions. This is the definition that we give for extremophiles, organisms which live in extreme habitats. So therefore option A is incorrect. What about option B? Indicate presence of certain minerals in the soil. This is characteristic of plants near a mine. So if you have plants living near the coal or gold mines, there will be traces of gold in the plant body, which indicates that there is gold here. So therefore option B is incorrect because this is not the definition for a keystone species. Option C, have become rare due to overexploitation, is also incorrect. This definition stands for endangered species. So therefore the final option is the correct one. Keystone species deserve population because these play an important role in supporting other species. The species itself, which we call as keystone species, they have disproportionate effect on the environment with respect to biomass. So therefore option D is the correct option here. Let's look at the next question. A lizard-like member of Reptilia is sitting on a tree with its tail coiled around a twig. This animal could be A, Hemidactylus, showing sexual dimorphism, B, Varanus, showing mimicry, C, garden lizard, that is Calotis, showing camouflage, or D, that is chameleon, showing protective coloration. So let's look at each of our options. Option A says Hemidactylus, showing sexual dimorphism. So what is Hemidactylus? Hemidactylus is the scientific name that we give for the gecko, and the gecko is best known for sticking onto all surfaces or most of the surfaces. And geckos, they aren't known for having their tail coiled around a twig and sitting on a tree, so therefore option A is incorrect. Option B, Varanus showing mimicry. Varanus is the name given to monitor lizards. And monitor lizards are the ones that live on the ground and they do not sit on trees. So therefore option B is incorrect. Option C, garden lizard. It says garden lizard is showing camouflage, which is incorrect. Garden lizards, they do not show camouflage. The right answer, therefore, is option D, chameleon, showing protective coloration. Chameleon, also known as georgette, shows protective coloration when sitting on a tree with its tail coiled around a twig. Chameleons are associated with protective coloration and camouflage because they can change color. So therefore option D is the correct option here. Next question. We need to define the phrase carrying capacity. So we have four options. Option A says the capacity of an individual to produce young ones. This is known as fertility and not carrying capacity. If you look at option C, it says gene frequency from one generation to the next. This is known as microevolution and not carrying capacity. So option C is incorrect. Option D, gene frequency in the same generation, is also known as allelic frequency, frequency between the alleles. So therefore option D is incorrect. The right option is option B, availability of resources in a given habitat to support a certain number of individuals or population beyond which no further growth is possible. So this is the correct definition for the phrase carrying capacity. Option B is the correct option. Now we are coming to the final question of this episode. Within biological communities, some species are important in determining the ability of a large number of other species to persist in the community. Such species are called A, keystone species, B, allopatric species, C, sympatric species, D, threatened species. So threatened species are species which are reduced in number and they face extinction. So therefore option D is incorrect. What about option C, sympatric species? Well, if you look at sympatric species, these species refer to evolution of species from ancestor living in the same region. So this term refers to evolutionary concepts. So option C is incorrect. What about option B, allopatric species? Well, allopatric species refers to the evolution of species by geographic isolation. A glaring example being the unique species found in Australia. So option B is incorrect. Therefore, the right option is option A, keystone species. These are the species that are important in determining the ability of a large number of other species to persist in the community. So therefore, option A is the correct option. That concludes this episode of NEET Preparation. We hope you found this episode interesting. For getting more info and videos on NEET Preparation, you can always hit the link for the playlist in the description box down below. For getting more of our useful and interesting content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, which is Brain Blitz Audios. You can also hit the notifications button in the video description so that you can receive updates about our latest content. So until the next webisode, take care, stay safe, bye-bye for now.